Welcome to another HoloNet news episode from the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. My name is Adam, and today is October 28th, 2025. Today's Star Wars news discussion will include The Mandalorian teaming up with Rotta the Hutt, The Stranger from the worst Star Wars series ever was actually going to be the first Knight of Ren, and Rogue Squadron, which was originally going to be a film, might actually now become a TV show. Plus, we're going to look at some other Star Wars news feed stuffs. So let's get into the HoloNet news. Oh yeah. Star Wars officially unveils The Mandalorian's new sidekick. Sorry, Grogu. Pedro Pascal's Mando has got a new partner for this upcoming cosmic caper. The Mandalorian has a new sidekick set to debut in the upcoming The Mandalorian and Grogu movie. The 2026 Star Wars film will see Pedro Pascal's chrome-domed bounty hunter and his adorable force-wielding ward take the leap from Disney Plus to the big screen. This will send the pair on an epic spacefaring adventure under the watch of director Jon Favreau, where they will encounter a multitude of colorful characters, some familiar and some completely new. One of the Mandalorian's movies returning names is Rotta the Hutt, as seen in the original Clone Wars movie. So you'll remember Rotta, I'm trying to remember now. Rotta the Hutt was in the original film of the Clone Wars, I think, where they were going after and collecting up the little baby Hutt for Jabba. And I think Rhoda is actually like the little baby. Anyway, this time being played by the Bear actor, Jeremy Allen White. And it seems White may have let slip some details about his Star Wars character ahead of the upcoming blockbuster. I will say really quick, if this is another, this character is lost and you have to go find him type story, get the fuck out of here. I don't want to see this. Let's not retread old ground. If you're going to do something and bringing back an older character that made a couple cameos in a couple series, then please, for fuck's sake, make it worthwhile. Have consequences. Make it exciting and engaging. But don't just retread old ground. That would kill me. Hey, Chris, you're afraid that the movie simply will feel like a 4-episode arc instead of... Yeah, and how could it not? Like, literally, how could it not? So speaking on the Graham Norton show while divulging that his grown-up son of classic Star Wars crime boss Jabba the Hutt will be running around for a lot of the movie together with Pascal's Din Djarin. This is the first indication that White's new addition to the Hutt family will be joining Mando for at least part of their adventure in the film, joining Grogu as one of Mando's central sidekicks. All right, so here's some speculation before we go on any further. If he's saying that they're running around a lot of the movie together, then they're definitely trying to solve some form of a problem together. And Hutts are notorious crime bosses. And if you're the son of Jabba the Hutt, not only do you have it in against the New Republic, because Leia, the Hutt killer, obviously killed your poppy, so you're going to have some problems with the New Republic. Din Djarin doesn't necessarily have any problems with the New Republic. He's actually worked with them before a little bit, but he is a bounty hunter. So he can definitely work with the crime syndicates. And as a bounty hunter, you go where the pay is. So maybe Rotta the Hutt is hiring Din Djarin to go search for something or someone. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean Grogu's not going to be involved? Are they going to like split up and Grogu's going to go off and do, I don't know, some other thing while Din Djarin's off exploring? Who knows? But even the bad Star Wars movies has been spectacles to watch. I mean, I watched the Clone Wars film that started the whole The Clone Wars series in the theater with my kids. So no matter what, it's going to be a good time. It's Star Wars. How could it not? Unless you throw in some form of the Acolyte anything, then it's not going to be a good time. All right. This may mean that Din Djarin's attention is diverted from Grogu, particularly since there are many moments in the trailer where the two seem to be separated. Perhaps Grogu will get his own subplot in the movie, exploring his own corner in the universe while Din and Rotta team up. I suspect Grogu will be babysat by Sigourney Weaver's character, and they'll just like paint each other's nails and have tickle fights. You know, what little baby kids do. Like, I wonder, maybe Sigourney Weaver's character will actually show him the original Star Wars film. And it's just Grogu watching Star Wars for the first time with Sigourney Weaver. I would watch that, if I'm being 100% honest. So, plot specifics for the new movie have not been revealed as of yet. However, the film's recently released first trailer did tease what seemed to be an epic gladiator arena sequence featuring White's Rotta the Hutt. It's a hut. They're going to have gladiator situations. You just can't get around stuff like that. You can argue that Jabba the Hutt's whole Rancor pit was very akin to a gladiator face-off. I mean, ultimately, he's just feeding a creature that one of his in his employ is his pet. And so it's not exactly the same as a gladiator arena. But when you throw Luke Skywalker down there, suddenly it becomes a gladiator arena. And, you know, Luke showcases his epic rock throwing skills and bone positioning skills in the Rancor's mouth. So then it becomes a sort of, but you know, if anyone ever played like Knights of the Old Republic video games, the role-playing games, there was a lot of sort of arena battles in there too. So it's very akin to Star Wars to have gladiator tournaments of some kind, like sort of mano a mano, especially when you're talking about crime lords and you're talking about criminal syndicates. I mean, cockfights, anyone? I mean, of course, you're going to have like dog fights. You're going to have insane animal fights. Why would that not extrapolate out to, like in Rome, like slave pit fighting in gladiator battles and stuff? I mean, tonight on one of my other fantasy channels, I'm going to be running my own gladiator battle. So maybe I should do a Star Wars one for this channel. That would be kind of fun. If the movie's 99% terrible, then they give you another Luke cameo, you'll be happy. I don't think they're going to get a Luke cameo in this. For some insane reason, they really want to focus on Ahsoka, which is just bananas to me, but whatever. White's character has been described as the ripped son of Tatooine crime lord and the leader of the Hutt's crime syndicate, Jabba the Hutt. Ripped son. Is he like buff? Is he a gladiator? Oh, I hope not. Because look at him. He looks like a gladiator right there. Look at that. Look at that. All right. The last time the character was seen on screen in the galaxy far, far away came as an infant in Star Wars The Clone Wars, as he was kidnapped by the villainous Asajj Ventress. But he has come back, lifting weights. This is not just your daddy's slug. Oh, no. He's working. The Mandalorian and Grogu is set to open in theaters on May 22nd, 2026, directed by the Mandalorian co-creator Jon Favreau, best known for his directing work on films like Iron Man and Elf. The Mando movie will follow Pedro Pascal's Din Djarin and his pint-sized Jedi companion Grogu as they embark on an epic star-hopping journey following 3 seasons confined to Disney+. So, how will Rotta the Hutt factor into The Mandalorian and Grogu, you ask? Good question. While it is now clear that Jeremy Allen White's Rotta the Hutt will play a key role in whatever Jon Favreau has planned for 2026 The Mandalorian movie, it remains unclear exactly how the character will factor into the main story. This is especially the case now that it has been revealed he will, at least for a time, be part of Mando's team. The only plot details fans have gotten on the film so far reveal that the Mandalorian and Grogu are on a course for action and adventure, mentioning toppling Imperial remnant AT-ATs and venturing into a gladiator fight. That's relatively little to go off of. Some have speculated that the movie could be centered on a massive heist job Mando undertakes to steal the Hutt Syndicate's primary vault. If that's the case, perhaps Rotta is the one behind the idea. look, let's look at the Mando verse, as it were, really quick, right? You have the Mandalorian. You have the Book of Boba Fett, where Boba Fett takes over Jabba the Hutt's palace as the new crime lord. Then we have Rotta the Hutt coming in. Now, does Rotta the Hutt want to take over his father's empire and go to Tatooine and become the new crime syndicate lord there? How would he feel about Boba Fett, one of his father's lackeys, one of his father's bounty hunters, taking over his dad's house? Would that not bother him a little bit? Maybe he's going to get more power or influence through this sort of heist job or some other, hiring Din Djarin to do something else. And that's what's going to then lead him back to Tatooine. And look, I'm all for it. Let's get Boba Fett back to the Boba Fett we saw in The Mandalorian Season 2, where he was a straight up Jason, I'm talking like Friday the 13th Jason, badass, just coming out in his armor, kicking ass and taking names, not the bantha riding Boba Fett that we got in the Boba Fett series, because that was garbage. Just hot garbage. I want Boba Fett to be badass again. So maybe this movie is a way to transition back to that version of Boba Fett, save the reputation, and come out swinging. I mean, I'd be all for that. So after his father died in Return of the Jedi, there's a chance another member of the Hutts took control of the galaxy-spanning crime ring, leaving Rotta and his side of the family in the rear view. We actually saw a couple of the Hutts in Book of Boba Fett. I mean, it literally showed two Hutts delivering the baby Rancor to Boba Fett. So maybe they're the ones that took over. Rotta's a little pissed off about it. I mean, it sets up for an interesting dynamic in a film. The movie could see him attempt to restore his family line to its former glory, stealing the Hutt vault with Mando and seizing control of the Hutt criminal empire in the process. I'm here for that. I think Rotta won't be the worst Star Wars character. You're actually interested. I'm interested too. I mean, look, Hutts have always been that sort of crazy, epic criminal force in Star Wars. Jabba the Hutt had a huge shadow cast all over the outer rim of the galaxy. How could you, as the son of Jabba, not feel that weight and then not be impacted when your father is murdered and the criminal syndicate is taken by other crime lords and then ultimately Boba Fett? That has to affect you. And you may have been smuggled into the gladiator arenas by the other Hutt criminals. Din Djarin gets caught by the Hutts. They try to get rid of him by throwing him in the gladiator arena. That's where he faces off against Rotta. And as they're fighting each other, they actually make a plan to escape and help each other get back to their regular lives. I could totally see something like that. The enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. And I would be down for that. That would be really exciting to watch. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot here that could be very, very fun and interesting. And if the writers are willing to take the chance on doing a little bit more of a deep dive into Star Wars lore, I know that the fandom is there for it. And there's always going to be shit asses complaining about everything you do with Star Wars. Hell, give me the Acolyte and I'm going to be one of them. But there's also going to be those of us who, while we didn't like every single aspect of a particular series or film, we still will recognize the elements that we did enjoy. Even with the Acolyte, there was elements in it that I did enjoy, like the Wookiee Jedi. I cannot not love a Wookiee Jedi, especially when he's enraged and attacking. He looks badass. How do you not love that? So yes, I am excited for this, even though I have low expectations of it being great. I still am going to go see it and I'm going to love it, at least elements of it. And if for no other reason, this screenshot alone, I mean, look at those arms. He's a slug. He's going to be moving slow, but when he hits, sweet hell is it probably going to hurt and leave behind some slime, which which is kind of gross. Let's be honest. All right, let's go on to the next story. Speaking of the Acolyte, new Acolyte book reveals that the Stranger was the first Knight of Ren in Star Wars. Who gives a fuck? Really? Who cares? Fan theories were correct after all. Look, I like the Aftermath novels where they had this group that was going around collecting artifacts of the Sith. They weren't Sith, they were just normal people, but they felt this call from outside of the galaxy. They didn't really understand what it was. It was some sort of presence. And so they went and collected up. In the Aftermath novels, I always assumed once the Force Awakens came out and we heard about the Knights of Ren, I assumed that group was the Knights of Ren. And I thought that would have been a great tie-in to who this organization was. But for some reason, they're just ignoring those brilliant novels, the Aftermath novels. I mean, they were really, really good. So I don't understand why. And there's so much in them that's really, really good. I don't understand why they like treating them like a pariah just because they don't like the author. Well, who gives a damn? The stories are there. The content of the stories are there. Use it. But instead, they go to this bullshit with the Acolyte. And look, Chimere or however you say his name, I didn't think he was a horrible character. I just didn't like the idea of him being a Sith. And and I haven't gotten to the article yet, but we will in a second, if it's revealed that he was never a Sith and that actually the image we got of like our Sith Lord peeking around the rock corner wasn't Chimere's master, but he was the Sith Lord just sort of looking in on potential acolytes before he ultimately got to like Palpatine, for example. Now we're talking about an interesting storyline, because then this is a sort of concurrent thing. This is like when Darth Plagueis, sweet hell. When Palpatine, I think he's Sidious, right? I've never even heard of a Star Wars. When Darth Sidious actually recruits Darth Maul, he wasn't meant to be a Sith Lord like Darth Vader. He was meant to be a Sith assassin. And so what if when Plagueis saw Chimere and that annoying as fuck female character in that episode or in that series, he saw them, he didn't see potential Sith Lords, he saw potential Sith assassins. That actually makes it a little bit more palatable to me, because then Chimere could murder that annoying ass girl who was just pure garbage in that whole series. Everything about the writing, the acting, everything. She was hot garbage. If they got rid of her and just had Chimere being the Sith assassin for Plagueis, while Plagueis is then courting Palpatine, a young Palpatine, and encouraging him to follow his dark side tendencies and studies, that's a really interesting series right there. That would be something I would be down for completely. But you have to get rid of the power of many or whatever the fuck it was, because that was ridiculously stupid. And so was that female actress. Just pure, not because she was a female, just because she was a terrible fucking actress and the writers had terrible fucking writing. So, how could he be the first Knight of Ren if Kylo Ren came 100 years later? Well, Kylo Ren became the leader of the Knights of Ren. He didn't start the Knights of Ren or anything like that. So this would mean that the Knights of Ren have been this sort of side organization for a while. And there's been a lot of different sort of evil groups in Star Wars that have acted tangentially to the main storyline. You know, whether we're talking about in more modern parlance, the droid Gatra, or if we're talking in older semblance, there was like your crime syndicates, your bounty hunters, all sorts of scoundrels. You're going to have these sort of organizations that maybe connect with the darker side of the Force or interpret the Force in different ways. The Witches of Dathomir, for example, and their warriors. That's where, of course, we get Oh my gosh, why am I struggling with his name? The Zabrak from the prequels. I just said his goddamn name too. In any case, that's where we get those characters. So Ben Solo chose the name Ren to become part of that group. He was probably granted the name Ren. He was probably granted Kylo, and then when he became the Knights of Ren's leader, the last name would be like the tie-in to that. I really think that's all it was. Like with Siths, Darth Vader is his sort of Sith name, but his real name's Anakin Skywalker, right? So I just think it's like the name that goes along with like a title, basically. But who knows? I mean, really, they could pull whatever bullshit. All right, so let's see what this says, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. And really, all this comes down to, I want to love Star Wars. I've grown up with Star Wars. I've always loved Star Wars. And it isn't until this recent Disney takeover that I feel like I've been like jerked off and beaten up at the same time, because we get stuff like Rogue One and Andor, and then we get stuff like The Acolyte. And you're just like, stop kicking me in the balls and then sucking me off. Like, I don't like it. Just be cool, man. All right, so let's get to the article. New Acolyte book reveals that the Stranger was the first Knight of Ren in Star Wars. Fan theories were correct, after all. Works when you... after just one season, the dark and deceptive Star Wars prequel series, The Acolyte, was canceled. Because, one, it was way over budget, and two, most people didn't watch it after a couple episodes because it was hot garbage. I know there's fans out there who loved it, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're one of them who loves it, that's awesome for you. I am not one of them, and I'm with the majority of Star Wars fans who did not like it, but because I reviewed it, still ended up watching it. Most people didn't. And with it, one of the coolest characters to ever join the franchise. No, one of the coolest characters? Really? Really? No matter how much hate the series set 100 years before The Phantom Menace got, one thing that many could agree on was Manny Jacinto's Jedi eviscerating villain, Chimere, aka The Stranger, who rocked dual lightsabers and stole the show. I don't think so. There was a lot of choices that they made that he was interesting, but he didn't steal the show. He still had stupid storylines. Now, following the release of a new book, The Art of the Acolyte, here's the other thing. I love these The Art of books. I've got a whole bunch of them over here in my other office on my bookshelf, but sweet hell, you don't have to do one for every piece of shit that you produce. I'm just saying. But the other side of it is I love that the artists are getting an opportunity to showcase their work. So I do really appreciate that. As an artist myself, I like seeing other artists get their recognition and due. Details have been revealed that the showrunner, Leslie Headland, who is a garbage person herself, had plans for Chimere to become the first Knight of Ren. Quote, "It was in the design of the character, as well as knowing that we were going to introduce Darth Plagueis, who has to end up with Palpatine as his apprentice. Following the rule of two, a precept that limited the Sith to just two at any given time, a master and an apprentice. One way to keep it going is if the Stranger is the first Knight of Ren, part of a Sith-adjacent cult that we know eventually survives." Look, I think Leslie Headland's a piece of shit, but, let's be fair for a second. If you don't agree with me, she was Harvey Weinstein's assistant while Harvey Weinstein was actively assaulting, sexually, and raping people. She was the assistant in the other room. So you can say she's not a piece of shit, but if you work in that environment and are complicit with that behavior, you're a piece of shit. All right, just to be fair and clarify where I'm coming from. So look, she can be a piece of shit and still have a decent idea. And I think, just as I said before I even got into this article, I think this is kind of interesting because there have always been adjacent groups, I dig it. All right. So given Chimere's impressive headgear and how he handled his lightsaber, I did feel fitting that he'd have some connection to the recent trilogy's big bad. played by Adam Driver. In fact, even in the show, fans noticed that Kylo Ren's themes from the film were only lightly applied, sparking theories that there was some connection between the two eras. Unfortunately, as far as we know, that link will never be investigated further, given that the show was cut short after one season. Of course, there's a galaxy of stories to be told in the Star Wars franchise, and who knows? The stranger could refamiliarize himself in future tales somewhere down the line. For now, though, we've got a host of other Star Wars adventures to get in on, and you can get the full list of what's going on in store right here. All right. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing I ever heard as far as an idea. I certainly wouldn't want to watch any more of The Acolyte, but if they don't bring back Leslie Headland, if they don't bring back that annoying ass woman that was playing beside this guy, and they just bring him back and have someone else writing and directing, I'd watch it. I would 100% watch it because it sounds interesting. And look, we've got a whole lot going on in Star Wars right now. I'm not going to be supporting Disney with their insane price increase and their behavior, but especially their cozying up to this current administration makes me fucking sick. But down the line, who knows? Who knows? All right. What do you think? Should The Stranger be re-explored in different lights, in different programs? And should we bring back the idea of the Knights of Ren in Star Wars as a Sith adjacent group, like we have in a whole bunch of other applications? I think it might be interesting to explore the idea. You let me know what you think in the comments. All right, next up, forgotten Star Wars movie rumored to release as a TV show. This is kind of exciting. Look, if you've read the Rogue Squadron novels, which I haven't, or the comics, which I have, which are obviously adaptations of the novels, you know that the storytelling is amazing. It's really, really good. And it's like galactic implications. And it's all happening concurrently from the end of Return of the Jedi all the way to like mid-New Republic era and later. So it's just something that is a really long-running series of novels and comics that have great storytelling, that are interconnected with other massive things happening all around the Star Wars galaxy, including involving like Timothy Zahn's stories, Luke Skywalker's stories. I mean, which those are sort of one and the same, but there's other Luke stuff that happens too. Really exciting stuff. So the idea that it's not coming back as a film, but is then, of course, going to be coming back as a series makes me rethink about, resubscribing to Disney Plus, because this would be good. Of course, let's find out what it's actually about. Another major development may be underway for the Star Wars franchise. While Lucasfilm has not issued an official statement, a new report indicates that Rogue Squadron could now move forward in a different format as the project continues to evolve. Rogue Squadron could now become a TV show. A new report from industry insider My Time to Shine Hello states Rogue Squadron is now being developed as a TV series. The news follows years of fluctuating updates regarding the project, which was first announced in December 2020 as a theatrical film directed by Wonder Woman filmmaker Patty Jenkins for Lucasfilm. And you remember that little trailer she did about talking about her father being a fighter pilot and her in a fighter suit with a helmet walking up to an X-Wing? That's pretty cool. So to know that the series isn't dead, and hoping beyond hope that they come back with the actual novels as inspiration and not trying to do something new and ridiculous, this could be amazing. This could be another Andor level amazing, like for real. In March 2024, Jenkins told the Talking Pictures podcast that she had resumed work on the Star Wars movie after her departure from Wonder Woman 3. She confirmed, quote, "I now owe a draft of Star Wars, so we'll see what happens there." Who knows? They've had a hard job in front of them. Jenkins said she remained committed to Rogue Squadron, calling the story a fighter pilot movie inspired by her late father's military service. Lucasfilm initially delayed the film in November 2021 because of scheduling conflicts and later removed it from its production slate. After leaving Wonder Woman 3 in late 2022, Jenkins signed a new deal with Lucasfilm to keep developing the script. In April 2023, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy made that clear in an interview with IGN shortly after the latest announcements. Rogue Squadron, that definitely is something that we will still talk about, she confirmed. Whether it's a movie or whether it ends up being in the series space, that's definitely something, Kennedy stated further. A serialized approach could help link the original and sequel trilogies along with other ongoing Star Wars shows. If confirmed, Rogue Squadron would join a growing lineup of Star Wars projects, including The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and The Acolyte. The film's official synopsis stated it would introduce a new generation of starfighter pilots as they earn their wings and risk their lives with a boundary-pushing high-speed thrill ride. What I'm afraid of is that this is going to end up like Star Wars Resistance, where it's just tangentially happening while the rest of the galaxy is on their, doing their big galactic issues. And this doesn't really tie in with anything else. And it just sort of has its own tangential storyline. That's not really interesting. The whole point of Rogue Squadron is that it was part of Luke Skywalker's team, and they all worked together in these big galactic conflicts. That's the whole point. They worked with the burgeoning New Republic. They were an arm of the New Republic. If you tell a different story, then it's no longer Rogue Squadron. You might as well call it Side Story Squadron, because it's not the same thing. You've got to tie it in, people. That's the whole point. Do you have any interest in playing any of the Star Wars video games that have come out in the past few years? There have been some good ones. You haven't had time yourself. Outlaws looks interesting. That Fallen Jedi second one looks really good. Up until very, very recently, I haven't had any time. And as I'm creating content for 3 different channels, I'm realizing that I have even less time than I thought I had. So I'm not sure I have time to play any Star Wars video games, but there are ones that I want to explore. I definitely want to check out the new Fallen Jedi, and I definitely want to check out the new Outlaws. Those 2 are the big ones. There's other like live action or sandbox Star Wars games coming out that I would love to explore. I still haven't finished my revisiting of the old Jedi Knight series. I haven't finished my Lego Star Wars series. So there's a bunch of games that I could get back into if and when I have time. But I was also in the middle of playing The Last of Us, and I haven't even finished that. And I haven't finished the Blair Witch Project video game. I haven't finished my revisiting of the BioShock franchise that I was planning on doing. So there's a whole lot in the cards for me of where I want to explore video game wise once I actually find myself having time. But I'm actually enjoying reading more than I am playing video games. And I've been reading a lot. So, that is kind of where I am right now. All right, so that is it for that article. What do you guys think? Should Rogue Squadron be a series? Should it be tied to the original novels? Or should they just do their own thing, still calling it Rogue Squadron? Let me know your thoughts, and we will find out. The fact that the studio approved and paid for Andor is what you have to hang your hat on as you hope for the future of the franchise. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they as much as we complained about Disney era, they have done some good stuff. They really have. So it's just not all good. That's the problem. But are we just being spoiled? Because not everything is good. I'm a huge fantasy fan, and I have a very favorite fantasy setting, and not all of it is good. And I still love it desperately. So are we just being wildly overcritical and unfairly critical to Star Wars as Star Wars fans? I think we might be. I really do. But be that as it may. All right. So there's not a whole lot of new with Star Wars news after that last Comic-Con or whatever con happened. But I always like seeing cosplay. And so this is just a hyper focus on a couple of them. And look, I've got 2 buddies who... Cameron and Robert, who both do cosplaying, not even cosplaying, they're part of like costuming groups. which is really, really cool in my opinion. And it's something that I have thought about doing since I met Cameron and he told me that he was doing it. So, and you guys know, I mean, we've actually had the 501st on here. We've had Rebel something. We've had the R2 builders on the show talking about the different organizations and, you know, what they sort of do. I love the idea. I'd be a great Cobb Vanth. Like, great. I'd love to do a Vader. I'd love to do an Imperial Guard. Like, those are my 3 costumes I would really love to put together. But it takes a lot of money and a lot of time. And those 2 things at this moment, I am very short on. So I just don't see it in the cards anytime soon. But I'd love to. I would love to. All right. New York Comic Con 2025 StarWars.com Cosplay Spotlight. Cosplayers at New York Comic Con have brought their love for Star Wars and characters like Ahsoka Tano and Darth Maul to the convention floor once more. New York Comic Con 2025 is underway, and we've already seen a number of Star Wars cosplayers out and about, including fan favorites Ahsoka Tano and Darth Maul. Here are a few of our favorite cosplays and stories from the fans behind them right off the New York Comic Con floor. She looks great here. I mean, you look, the makeup's impeccable. The Lekus look great. The outfit is awesome looking. Sign you up for Jabba. Come on. Hey, ooh. Just because you said Jabba, what about Rhoda? Huh? Come out looking all buff with a big old tail? That could be fun. All right, Ahsoka Tano. Ashley Baker, who has been attending New York Comic Con for 15 years, has the goal to cosplay nearly every version of Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and beyond. At New York Comic Con 2025, she went for a more somber cosplay as the Season 7 version of Ahsoka, specifically from the final episode, Victory and Death. Quote, I made everything except for the Leku myself, Baker said. I looked at as many source images as I can. That means a lot of Google searches for Ahsoka 360 Star Wars to see every side and detail. Baker's love for Ahsoka has been driving force behind the creation of 7 cosplays and counting. Quote, I think it's 100% her resilience and ability to lead against dogma, Baker said. That really aligns with my background. I resonated with that idea of walking my own path. Well, she looks great, and I would love to see the other cosplay versions of her. I wish they would have done like a little gallery or something. If they're going to mention 7, maybe show us the 7. That would be cool. But I think it's awesome. And look, again, I complain a lot about Star Wars, but I love Star Wars, and I love meeting other fans of Star Wars and seeing what other fans do with Star Wars. I think it's just fantastic. So cool. All right, this is fun. Tech. Didn't really like the Bad Batch much. I mean, they had some moments, but overall, I didn't really like the arc it ended on. This is kind of neat. So Mark Matthews has been a Tech fan since Clone Force 99, debuted in the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Immediately after finishing the first episode of Season 7, Matthews entered a group chat with his friend who is also working on a Hunter cosplay. Quote, we watched Tech come off the Marauder, and I was like, this guy's me, but in Star Wars, Matthews says. There's the real humor in the way he observes things. That connection endeared him to Tech so much that he began building his cosplay right away, a combination of designing elements, utilizing other people's 3D files, and buying a few parts. He remodeled several details, including the pauldrons and Tech's tools. Other details, like his fiberglass chest piece, came from other makers. For Matthews, like many Star Wars The Bad Batch fans, Plan 99 hit hard, but the timing was uncanny for his cosplay. Quote, it was funny because it was only a few years before New York Comic Con that year, and I was like, I need to finish him for this year, Matthews says. That year, it was really amazing because all these Bad Batch fans, all these Tech fans would come up to me and say, Tech lives! I'm a Tech lives truther through and through. It's kind of cool. I dig it. I don't remember anything about his personality that would make me be like, yeah, I'm a Tech fan. You know what I mean? But I love the cosplaying, man. It's super cool. All right, and last but not least, Orson Krennic. I think he should get a little bit of gray in his hair and maybe trim up the sides a little more military, but not bad. Victor Kotek considers himself a lifelong Star Wars superfan, having grown up on the films, watching the cartoons, and playing with the toys as a kid. But when he saw Rogue One, A Star Wars Story in 2016, Orson Krennic stood out to him as a unique character. Yeah, because he is. He's a great character. Especially if you watch the end of Andor. Oh my gosh. He's amazing. Quote, I was so inspired by the Krennic character, a balance of evil and professionalism, working on the Death Star and all that, Kotek says. And seeing him come back in Andor was totally awesome. I totally agree. Kotek, who first attended New York Comic Con in 2018, has made Krennic an annual go-to. At a fan meetup Thursday, several other attendees stopped him for photos, recognized as in costume from previous show floors. But his Krennic cosplay has undergone adjustments over the years. The cosplay had to be tailored and the cape had to be reinforced because it would fall off the shoulders, Kotek says. Every year I've been coming as Krennic. I want to give that familiarity to the fans. I love that, Kotek adds. I've had friends here, excuse me, because of Comic-Con, they recognize the character. So that inspires me to get up in the morning. That's really cool. Yeah, he's got snaps on the cloak. I don't know if I might end up doing like Velcro or something instead of snaps. But snaps work really well, so what do I know? All right, Darth Maul. This guy looks dope. Look at that. Androu Teodorescu was a child when he first saw Star Wars The Phantom Menace, but the film and Darth Maul fascinated the young fan. I remember the dual lightsaber and the Duel of the Fates, the final fight. It was awesome, says Teodorescu, who joined a fan meetup on Friday in full Darth Maul cosplay, complete with Sith probe droid. That's awesome. Look, it's like attached to his belt, I think. That's awesome. I always wanted to do this. Creating his cosplay took some time, including a weather droid companion. It took a couple of months, 3D printing the droid and binoculars and sewing the costume. Teodorescu says. A unique detail of his cosplay is the use of a custom silicone mask for Darth Maul's face. What? That's a mask? That's dope. Oh, wow. Yeah, you can see around the eyes right here that it's a mask. That's why it looks thicker. That's cool, though, still. I just thought he was a thicker dude. Look at his chest. Let's see. A unique detail of his cosplay is used the custom silicone mask for the Darth Maul's face, horns, and red and black skin in place of the go-to choice of many Star Wars cosplayers, body paint. The mask was shaped to my head, so it's pretty tight, and I do have to glue it, Teodorescu says. We basically mold it to a prop head and then make some adjustments so it fits me perfectly. That's really cool. That's dedication right there. The effect is chillingly accurate. And he can't wait to see Maul in action again with Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, he says, having watched every time Maul has returned on the screen with great interest. I liked him at the end of Solo. I thought he looked cool, and I loved him in the Clone Wars. I think his story arc is amazing. And, you know, even with the comics, they did a really great job of tying in the comics with Star Wars, the Clone Wars. It's dope. I really love all of it. See, damn, Maul looks amazing. What character would you want to cosplay if you had an unlimited budget? It would be Vader, like, for sure. But, you know, again, like I mentioned before, I'd be a Cobb Vanth, and I'd be an Imperial Royal Guard as well. You think the lesser-known characters make the best cosplay choices because it's a flex for the hardcore fans who are the only ones who will get it. I mean, I went to the symphony with Colin and Cameron, and Colin came as Wilro Hood, the ice cream maker guy from Empire Strikes Back. He came with the little ice cream maker as his little prop and the whole outfit and everything. So that's pretty awesome. Seeing him sitting, I have photos of it somewhere. I'll have to actually republish that blog because I made a blog about it on our old Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders website. But I took that down because we sort of got burned out on Star Wars after Star Wars sequel trilogy. I might have to put that back. I had an interesting blog on the creation of the logo and an interesting blog on some other stuff that we've done, going to see Solo, going to the symphony together. It was a good time. So anyway, definitely check those out once I get them live and stuff. So that's it for this article, and that is going to do it for this HoloNet news. Just wanted to share some weekly Star Wars news and fun. You know, I mean, I want to get back into having a love and passion for Star Wars after being burned so many times. And of course, now that I have a little bit more time, I would love you all to join me with that. So thank you for tuning in. That is all for this Star Wars news on my desk. Thank you for joining this HoloNet News broadcast. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe so you'll catch the next episode where we'll explore more Star Wars news. I also have a Patreon account. If you enjoy this series or other content I produce, I'd like to invite you to become a patron. You can also become a member of this YouTube channel. Links are in the description below. Thank you to developer patron Chris Androu. Thank you for watching. Until next time, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf Herders, may the Force be with you.